folks, it's your girl, Lexi Mahari, and I am back with another episode of Buzzworthy Chit Chat, where I like to share my opinion on the latest pop culture news, current events, do a few scripted and reality television reviews, and so much more. Before we dive in, I do want to take a moment to remind you to hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so that you can be notified each time I upload a brand new video. So in this episode, I wanted to dive into Heavenly's response regarding the intervention. Now, in my previous Married to Medicine review from this past week's episode, I shared some of my thoughts around whether or not I thought Heavenly was wrong in what she had to say about the ladies. I felt strongly that she was way harsher on her other castmates, meaning Quad and Toya, far more than she was, and even Jackie, I'll add, far more than she was on Contessa. I felt like, Heavenly gave I thought, a generic response to a question that she was asked. And when I say generic, meaning it was more repetitive of what she had already said on the show, at the reunion. And I didn't feel her thoughts were that far off from what the general public had shared about how they felt about where Contessa and Scott were headed at that time in their marriage, right? It came across, it was portrayed as being very dysfunctional, probably not a healthy place for Contessa or even Scott for that matter. I don't think, he was being his best self either, and for their kids. Of course, I don't think anyone would wish divorce on anyone's marriage, but these two were really having a rough time. And so Heavenly basically said that, hey, if you're not happy with your situation, then you need to make a decision. Either you're going to leave it or you're going to stay in it and shut up. And I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what Heavenly's response was about Contessa's situation at that time when asked by a viewer or a fan of the show. So Contessa apparently has taken issue with Heavenly, quote, speaking on her marriage in a public domain. And on last week's episode, we saw where she and Toya, who has also been the, the bearer or the brunt of a lot of Heavenly's commentary and jokiness, they staged an intervention, basically. And they staged the intervention at Contessa's house. They invited all of the ladies over. The only other cast member who had any insight into what they were about to do was Simone. So, Heavenly's response throughout that intervention was to laugh at a lot of the things that were said about people. And, it didn't look good, obviously, with her laughing. But I will say, once again, I didn't think what she had to say about Contessa was that bad. And so, Heavenly's statement or response to Contessa at that time was that, or at least in her diary room, was that she felt like Contessa was trying to displace her anger, right? Her anger was displaced against Heavenly, that her real issue, her real beef was with her husband. And that if she didn't like the fact that, Heavenly was commenting on the marriage, then she shouldn't be putting it out there. So I want to say this about Heavenly, as someone who's been watching this show from the beginning, one thing you can say about Heavenly is that she is always very straightforward about her opinions and thoughts. She jokes, and she's definitely one of those people whose jokes are also pretty sincere, pretty straightforward. And when I say sincere, meaning you've probably heard the saying that when people joke about other people or about you, there is some truth in what they are saying, and at least their perception of the truth in what they are saying about you, even when it's a joke. So I think Heavenly has always been a straight shooter. She just says what's in her mind. Her filter is bad, and so whether or not it is something many of us or most of us would say to someone directly or to the public about that individual. She is that person who is going to say what is on her mind. And honestly, I actually appreciate that about Heavenly. I think I wish more people sometimes were like that. You know, they don't beat around the bush. They just say what's on their mind. But at the same time, and I know I sound like I'm kind of wavering here, but at the same time, there are times when I'm like, no, Heavenly, don't do it. Don't say it. So anyway, we saw the intervention unfold on last week's episode. So Heavenly did, you know, as she does after every show, she did post her response to last week's episode. She gave her review, so to speak, of what we witnessed on the show and how she felt in that moment. So, how did Heavenly feel about the intervention that took place? We're going to get into it. So one of the things that Heavenly did on her YouTube live was to talk about why she does the after shows. You know, she laid out her history of being on YouTube, that she had been on YouTube for nearly 10 years, that, you know, it wasn't something that she had spent a lot of time doing. I can relate. You know, you start a YouTube channel, you want to get into giving reviews about different things. You know, for her, she had obviously her dental business. So she said she did a lot of videos around dental care, I guess, so to speak. And so she wasn't really all that committed to it until, you know, Married to Medicine started. And so she proceeded to say that that was when she started doing some of her after shows. And she mentioned that she was, I guess, doing it before Candy was from Real Housewives of Atlanta. Honestly, I don't know the timeline. I do know Heavenly has been doing this for a while. But so she said she'd been doing it for a while. She felt like she wanted to be able to actually, and I'm paraphrasing, but basically give a review on a show that she's obviously very familiar with. She doesn't know the other people on the other shows maybe that she had reviewed or would have been reviewing, but she knew exactly what happened here on the Married to Medicine show, right? So it made sense for her to give her feedback as related to what actually transpired in the episodes and what she had seen. So, you know, if we think back, particularly during the pandemic and, you know, since that time, you know, Heavenly has been pretty active in the YouTube streets, giving her opinion about different shows, as well as, of course, Married to Medicine. And as we saw on this week's particular episode specifically, you know, she has been critical of each of her cast members to some extent, right? So she has decided, or actually she has described, not decided, but she has described YouTube as being very therapeutic for her, that she gets to come on and she gets to talk about what she needs to talk about, you know, as it relates to this show. And it was kind of funny, she actually referenced Cecil, saying that she had him to thank for that. So for Heavenly, she says that, you know, this YouTube space is very therapeutic for her, and that's what she enjoys doing. So, you know, that's how she's been using it, right? She's been sharing her opinions about things. She answers questions from her fans. She, you know, responds to their comments, and that's what we get. So, you know, her and Toya obviously have a long-term beef that, you know, apparently isn't going to get any better this season, but, you know, she acknowledges that she has habitually gone after Toya, you know, about her marriage and things, but she also wanted to point out, and her finances, her marriage, her finances, different things that she's gone after Toya on, but she also wanted to call out that, you know, Tessa has been there for some of those things, and that, you know, finding that these two had suddenly become, I guess, good friends, so to speak, was just crazy, because she said, you know, Tessa has had a lot to say about Toya over the years, you know, that she has called Toya a refugee, because obviously because Toya has moved a few times over the years, and she called Eugene a big ass B, and you can fill in the rest. She said Toya was a refugee, and, you know, we have definitely, I think, heard Contessa refer to Toya as dumb and dumber, right? Her and Toya have not, or she and Toya have not been good friends at all throughout the tenure of Contessa's time on the show. They have had some pretty significant beefs over the years, if you ask me. So yeah, it is confusing, I think, for viewers to see these two suddenly coming together. I don't know if it's one of those situations, right, where your enemy is my enemy, you know, and that's how they are approaching Heavenly at this point, or if there was some type of reconciliation that truly happened off camera that we're not privy to. I don't know. But I know that it is causing some angst amongst the viewers to see this without any real understanding for it. And so anyway, Heavenly, you know, touches on that. She talks about the fact that suddenly these two are friends, and they basically united against her and set up this intervention at Contessa's house. So as you recall, when we were watching the intervention, you know, we saw Heavenly laughing. And so I think a lot of us kind of knew, you know, Heavenly is a person. So it was hard to believe that nothing about that situation bothered her. Yes, she got a little upset in the end, but I'm thinking more at a deeper level, right? That I think most of us viewers were kind of turning our head to the side with the puppy dog symbol, in which we were trying to understand, okay, this is your response to what she just did or what they just did. And so Heavenly did acknowledge that she was actually, and I want to get her statements right, but she was actually very hurt by the situation, that, you know, Contessa was her friend, that, you know, she had nothing but respect for her, that she had told her many, many times that she was intelligent, she was beautiful, that she could have anybody she wanted, that she had really, truly tried to be a good friend to Contessa. Here's a little bit more about what Heavenly had to say herself about the intervention.
I was taken aback. I was shocked. I was not expecting it. It happened. And my whole thing is, if this was for TV, girl, you had a good friend, you lost one, baby. You lost one, and I probably don't care.
So there you have it. She was shocked. She was taken aback, not expecting it at all, the intervention that took place. Who do you think is right or wrong? I want to hear from you. Chime down below in the comments. I am going to post a link to Heavenly's video. It's about 39 minutes long, and she really shares, I think inadvertently, some golden nuggets about what you can expect from the upcoming season, and it sounds like it is going to be a good one. So with that, that's the end of my video. Stay safe, and I'll catch you in the next video.